I just threw up in my mouth. What the is that? So yes, I am going to be picking which country I would have liked to fight for. How we're going to break that down is how the troops were treated, how they were treated as POWs, some of the worst atrocities they committed in the wars, some of the worst things they went through. Anyway, let's dive right in. We're going to start with the Soviet Union. Everyone thinks, yeah, the Soviets were our friends. They're cool guys. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. The troops were treated worse than pretty much any other country. They had the no-step-back orders. Basically, if you retreated without being ordered to retreat, you would have been tortured and killed. You're shooting Krauts with your PPSH, and, you know, they get crazy. They bring out the MG42, and if you get scared and you run, your own country kills you. So you're kind of fucked, unless your higher-up told you to retreat, but then his higher-up might kill him for telling you to retreat, and then his higher-up will tell you. There's this long chain of command of higher-ups until you get to Stalin. Basically, if Stalin didn't say retreat, so someone's dying. Someone's dying here for breaking Order 227. I think that's the order. I think it was Order 227, execute. Order 227. This led to a lot of Soviets either being killed by an MG42 or just being captured, which the German POW camps were, I mean, they're concentration camps, man. These are Slavs. They don't see Slavs as being human, Aryan, like me. If they were released, it wasn't good. If they went back to Russia, they were usually just branded as traitors, just for surrendering or getting captured. Even if they didn't surrender, they were captured by force. They worked with the Nazis, somehow. Soviets are really good at manipulation. They're riling up their troops using all kinds of propaganda wherever they can. Operation Barbarossa happens where the Germans are invading the Soviet Union, right? And what Stalin likes to do is just not evacuate women, children, and old people from the cities, because what does that do? It riles the troops up. They're defending now. They're defending women and children and old people. Understand that the Soviets were so unequipped. All they really had going for them was manpower. They had so many guys that they could send in there. And they fucking did. They sent basically their entire military-age population into this fight. Most of them died because they were just throwing them at the enemy, which, yes, wins battles usually. What's the casualty number of the Soviets? Like 26 million or some shit like that. These guys were like mostly not trained either. They're just fucking psycho. And they have an invading force in their country who has really snappy outfits, by the way. Let's go over to Italy.
Hi there. I lost the main audio and the A-roll footage to the whole Italy part of this video. Still a very interesting part of World War II, Italy. Wow. Hey, deal with it. I don't know what to do. I lost it.
Their guns are so lacking compared to what the Allied troops have at this point. It's actually very surprising to see how much they accomplished in Africa, in the Africa campaign. They also lack supplies. They're not getting enough food and all this shit. The big issue with Italy is their leadership. They have no good leaders. They have no good generals, no one like that. Even all the way up to Mussolini. Mussolini's a fucking idiot. Their inadequacy in the war has kind of like a psychological effect on them too. They were told for 10 years before this war that they were the strongest country in the world by Mussolini. That's a fascism thing. You're gonna tell everyone, hey, if anyone fucks with us, we will destroy them. And then the second they get involved in the war, no, it's not even fucking close. Germany's doing most of their work in Africa. We invade Italy, no fucking issue. Just for example, we're told that the US is impossible to invade, right? So imagine if China one day just steamrolled the entire country in a month. What would that do to you psychologically? That'd fuck you up, right? That'd completely destroy your morale. That's a big thing that's happening with Italy in this war. Their fucking Carcanos are jamming on them in the field, and meanwhile they're looking at this 6'4" guy from Kentucky with a semi-auto M1 Garand. Oh, and then not to mention this inadequate little army that kind of helps Germany out here and there. Yeah, they sent them to the Soviet Union. They sent them into our Operation Barbarossa. You know what the Soviets did to them? What's the weakest battalion that the Italians have? Let's just go fuck them up. And they did. They didn't give a fuck. You got a little 5'6" Italian guy who can't get his fucking gun to load versus a Russian with a PPSH. You understand? They just feel inferior throughout this war, and then the armistice happens and they trade sides.
Yeah, I said armistice. Not armistice, the way it's actually pronounced. And I knew it was pronounced armistice. I'm just nervous. I've never made videos like this. Nostradamus. Quasimodo, no, it's Nostradamus. Carcano, who knows? Carcano. Lee Harvey Oswald definitely didn't get off 3 shots in 6 seconds with one of those fucking rifles. I don't know. Who fucking, bye. God damn it.
The Germans instantly capture 600,000 Italians and they just take them as POWs, right? But they don't call them POWs. They call them Italian military internees. What does that mean? Well, they call them internees so they don't have to call them POWs, so then they don't apply to the Geneva Convention, and they can do whatever the fuck they want to them. These guys mainly just had to do forced labor in Germany and all of Germany's territories at the time. A lot of them died. Italians are also fighting on like the harshest terrain of this war. North Africa is grueling. Not to mention Italy's really hard to fight in itself. It's got a bunch of crazy mountains and shit going on. Now, Italy did have the advantage there over the Allied troops, but you know, it's still rough. Their country split in half in 43. It's a mess. It's a messy situation all around. All right, what country you guys want to do next? I got 2 Asians, I got 3 white. Let's do a white country. You guys want to do one of the cool ones or one of the evil ones? Let's do Great Britain. Think about the psychology of a Brit at this time for a minute. Germany just took over most of Europe, but they haven't taken your little island up here yet. They're in fight or flight for 6 years straight. They just know it's coming at some point. And then Germany just starts bombing them, which honestly, in some ways, is way more psychologically fucked than an invasion, right? Because you don't know when it's... You ever seen the intro to Narnia? Strafing runs are fucking terrifying. There's just bombs going off everywhere. It could be any second. A bomb could just come through your roof, just like that. So these guys are psychologically just fucked, but they're pretty resilient people. Honestly, if they had the weaponry and manpower that the US had, they probably would have not even needed us. But meanwhile, you did, didn't ya? Didn't ya? No, we gotta give them credit where credit is due. I mean, Britain's pretty fucking badass in this war. One of the most horrific things the Brits saw in this war was the fall of Singapore. The Japanese. Yes, the Brits fought the Japanese in Singapore, and they fucking lost. And do you know how we'll get into how Japanese treated their POWs. It wasn't pretty. They had to go work on like the Burma-Thailand Railway, otherwise known as the Death Railway. You know what would happen there? They'd be knocking the spikes in and then they just die. They just die from starvation. Or a Japanese soldier would be like, watch that and shoot him. Then what has England been known for centuries? Their navy, their crazy Royal Navy. No one can take down the Royal Navy until you have fucking U-boats, until your enemy has submarines. You can't even see them coming, and then you're dying in a room and there's water coming up. I got some queso because I'm mommy's hungry boy. Let's talk about China. I'm China getting that pussy. Anyway, genocide. I mean, the Chinese were very similar to Italy. Their guns sucked. But their guns sucked so bad that they were worse than the Japanese's guns. Do you know how bad the Japanese guns were at this time? They just went off in holsters and shit like that all the time. They were horrible guns. And China had worse guns. I mean, China's a poor country at this time. They don't have anything. Their supply lines are shit. They don't have anything coming to their troops. They barely even have troops. Not to mention the Chinese government is two separate factions. You have the nationalist side of it and the communist side of it. They're in the middle of a revolution while all of this is going on. The communist kind of revolution. So they're in the middle of a civil war. Which when is China not in the middle of a civil war? At the exact same time, Japan is just over here committing atrocities. I mean, they kind of came together and formed this shitty little alliance to fight off the Japanese, but they were still having turmoil. They still killed each other a lot. They're all fucking starving. This is a poor country, and then not to mention the military has a class divide going on. There's some elite units who are getting all the rice, all the food. I'm not just saying rice because it's China, okay? It's nothing racist. They mainly gave them rations of rice. That's a real thing. It'd be like if you gave SEAL Team 6 a butler, a professional chef, all mansions to live in just because they killed Osama bin Laden, but SEAL Team 3 got half of a chicken to ration between all of them with no seasoning and no way to cook it. That's what's going on in China at the time. I mean, the Japanese just treated them horribly. The of Nanking. Notice how I have to bleep that out? Even though it's a historical event, I have to bleep that out because it's a scary word. I'm gonna do a video on the of Nanking soon. If a Chinese man was captured by a Japanese man, dog, they dip him in like boiling oil. It was just severe torture for them. Same with the Koreans. The exact same thing. This isn't even really World War II. It kind of merged into it, and China did a lot to help us defeat the Japanese, but it was really just China defending their own country. That's why they're kind of thrown into World War II. But in reality, this was a separate thing going on. And they were resilient. They were resilient little fucking Chinese people. You know? Time to get over to the dogs. The big boys. The fucking Nazis. Instilling confidence in your people that you are basically the most powerful nation on the planet. It's a big part of fascism because when you instill confidence in someone, they're gonna manifest whatever that confidence is, to a degree. Here's the difference between Germany and every other fascist country at the time. Germany could kind of back this shit up. Especially early on in the war. Their supply lines were fucking top tier. They were eaten. Motherfuckers was eaten. If things had stayed the way they were up until Operation Barbarossa, I'd probably be picking Germany. Just saying. They was eating. They was eating good. Didn't last. They invaded the Soviet Union. You can't get a hamburger from Hamburg up to the Soviet Union without it getting cold. Basically, after Stalingrad, whatever confidence and high morale they had is gone. It's just gone. All they have now is really good guns, and they look snappy. They sure do look snappy while they're doing it. You guys ever want to buy one of those uniforms? I'm just asking. You ever think about it? Has it ever crossed your mind? Anyway, genocide. The problem is, no matter how good your tactics are, it's terrifying when a government is just throwing people at you. Psychologically, that's gonna fuck you up, very similar to the US and Japan. I mean, it's really simple what happened to the Germans. They went into it as one of the most powerful countries in the world, and slowly over the course of this war, especially on the Eastern Front, it just got so fucked up. They went from being very civilized with their military to, if you desert, you're dead, very similar to the Soviets. Their medical supplies is just non-existent by the end of this war. And then finally it all comes to a head, the end of this war, which led to some of the worst atrocities in human history. And that is on the Soviet side of Berlin after Germany fell. Do you realize what the Soviets did to these fuckers? After years of the atrocities that the Nazis were committing to the Soviets, now they get their chance to do the same. And they're women to death. In Berlin, sawing surrendered German soldiers in half. Shit like that. Some wild, the boys are going crazy. All right, let's go over to Japan. Ugh. No, I'm not fighting for fucking Japan. No. You guys know what Bushido is? Bushido? Anyone? Some samurai shit. Basically, it's just like you stay loyal, you die. If told to. They took this shit to the core. This is what they prided themselves in throughout this war. How many POWs, let me look this up. How many POWs did we take in Japan? I think they all just killed themselves before we could. Holy fuck, dude. 35,000. Do you realize that in one battle in Europe, it could see like 200,000 POWs in one battle? 35,000 Japanese prisoners of war in the entire Pacific theater, in the entire Pacific campaign. So if that gives you any perspective on how the Japanese worked in this war, they just die. There's no such thing as surrender. If they ever were surrendering, they had a grenade in their pocket. So what did that lead to? That led to the Allies just say, if they were gonna fucking surrender for real, they just shot them anyway. Which I would do too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'd put one right in his head. One of the ways they got them to just not surrender ever was by their treatment, their own treatment of the US troops. Japanese higher ups said, hey, they treat you worse than this if you're captured by them. No, we didn't. We definitely weren't following the Geneva Conventions. No one does once an actual war breaks out. But we weren't as bad as the Japanese, though. They were also just starving as well. They had no real supply lines. If they did, they got some disease in them, and the food was fucked up and rotten, and they ate it anyway. And then they died. They just died just like that. They ate each other as well. They would eat their boys sometimes. Just things like that. Fun things, you know, they're just bros doing bro things. We also experimented on them. I don't know if you guys know about that. The few that we captured, we would do experiments on them and see how certain like biological weapons worked on them and whatnot. The thing you got to understand about Japan at this time, man, is they're just fucking atrocious. And they manipulated all of their little troops and infantry, their pawns, to be just as atrocious as them. They're evil. Okay? They're cool now and they like Hello Kitty and all this stuff and anime and Evangelion and everything like that, but back then, holy shit. The reason I'm saying all that is that Georgia boys like myself saw what they were doing and we just did the same shit. The atrocities these guys committed made the US and whoever else was fighting the Japanese at the time, it made them dehumanize them even more. The US just viewed them as fucking animals. You know, again, Geneva Conventions do not apply anymore. What were they fighting for, though? I mean, they're imperial. They want to take over all of East Asia, but why? Why do they want to take over all of East Asia? Well, it's the fact that you have these European countries kind of colonizing everything in East Asia at the time. France had fucking Vietnam, right? So they go in and they kick the France out, but then they just happen to kill most of the Vietnamese. There's also oil in a lot of these countries, and Japan wants to be in with everyone in the Industrial Revolution. You need oil for that. And it all comes down to the Great Depression. The Great Depression hit Japan really fucking hard. What's the best way to get out of that shit? Go take from other people. Go take everything else. That brings us over to the United States. Yeah, we know this one. We're the best. Look at that right there. That's a Mick Ultra. You understand that? Do you understand that? I think there were some guys in the army in Europe who were very much like, why are we here? Is Germany going to do this to us? I don't know. Why are we in Africa right now? We're in Africa? Why are we in Africa? But shut up. You're an infantryman. I mean, the thing is, if you were an infantryman, you had the best treatment of like any other country. Or it wasn't great. You're still infantry. You're still a pawn. But better than anyone else. We had supplies. We had food normally. We had treatment for injuries and vaccinations for all the diseases that were going around in this war. That being said, the medical treatment wasn't great. We didn't even know what PTSD was yet. You know what they did? You know what they did for guys who had combat fatigue? That's what they called it at the time. Say a guy that looks exactly like me comes back from Hacksaw Ridge and he's doing this. Got this weird aura going on, this weird vibe about him. What's wrong with him? I don't know, just fucking sit him down back there, give him a bath, and send him back in 2 days. Send him back to Hacksaw Ridge. It's better than any other country at this time. Let's be completely honest. They actually cared. When these guys were captured by the Japanese, man, this shit was rough. When we surrendered in the Philippines, the Japanese just made US troops and Filipino troops march like 65 miles without food or anything, water or anything. Most of them just died. I mean, that's just kind of the best way you can go to the Japanese in this war. Let's be real. Anyway, what country would I fight for? I am between Great Britain and the US. I'm sure all of you guessed that. I am going with Great Britain if I am being forced to fight in the Marines in the Pacific. I'm picking Great Britain every fucking day. However, if I'm in the European campaign, if I'm in the invasion of Italy, I'll do D-Day. I'll probably die, but I'll do it. Okay, I'd have to do it with Great Britain anyway. Yeah, I'll go with the US if I'm in Europe. But if I'm in Japan, we're going Great Britain. So that's it. That's that. Hey, you guys have a good one, all right? Thanks for watching.